It looks like Councillor Weeks isn't here, so you could sub for Councillor Weeks.
Yes, fine, I'll do that.
We're now live on YouTube.
Okay.
Over to you, Councillor Hoskins.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to this virtual cabinet panel on community engagement and cooperative development. It's being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio, video and online. There is also the opportunity for the public and press to listen to and view proceedings. We also have contributors from various organisations with us here to provide feedback. But before the meeting starts, I will invite committee member and scrutiny manager Hilary Deneen to explain how proceedings will work and to take the roll call, confirm that members, officers and registered speakers are in attendance.
Thank you, Chair. You members will be pleased to hear that this is the first meeting with the shortened version of the announcement, so you'll be overjoyed to hear that. The roll call, however, will go ahead. So first of all, I'll call members of the committee. If you don't mind, I'll just do surnames. Billing.
I'm here.
Brown.
Here.
Thank you. Davies.
Here, just struggling with the mute button.
Green.
Here.
Harwood.
Yeah.
Hoskins.
Here.
Oliver.
Here.
Albert.
Here.
Muir.
Present.
We also have guest councillors, Councillor Steers Hanscom.
Here.
And Councillor Hunter.
Present.
I think that's all of the councillors. Officers, we have Ruben Iarvu.
Present.
Steve Crowley.
Present.
Anna Govia.
Present.
Sarah Kingsley.
Present.
Georgina Chapman.
Hello.
I didn't see Claire Morgan come in, so I'm not sure if she's here. Mark Robinson is doing our IT for us, and I'm Hilary Deneen. And then we have lots of members of the public, which is great. So I'm going to zoom through, and I will ask at the end if I've missed anybody. So I have Vivian Reid.
Yes.
Alex Snelling.
Hello.
Mark Russell.
Hello.
Alethea Mashiri.
Hello.
Tony Williams.
Hi.
Annie Sander.
Hi.
Sue Watkinson.
Hiya.
Caroline Mager.
Yep.
Sean Khan.
Yep.
Hannah Morgan Gray.
Yes.
I think I just saw Alexander Gerossi just arrive. Alex Gerossi. Are you able to unmute yourself so we can hear you, sir?
Okay.
Lovely, thank you very much. Rosie Waters.
Yes, hello.
Hello, and Catherine Bennett.
Hi.
Hi, Liberty Platten Halls.
Here.
And I don't, have we got anyone that I've missed?
Yeah.
Sorry, who's me? Oh,
And
Kath
me.
Dalton. I do apologise, Kath. And someone else?
And me, Nick White.
Nick White, I do
Yeah.
apologise. And
Good
I've just seen, we've also got John Webb who's joined us. Hello, John.
Chrissy Russell's next to me as well.
Thank you very much, Mark. So Chris is here as well. Anybody else that I've missed? I do apologise for that. I'm trying to follow this list. So anyway, it's rather nice to have all these members of the public here. So all I'm going to say about how the meetings run, please note that the meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and recorded via Zoom. Extracts from the partly remote meetings protocol are included with the papers on the agenda, and the full version is available on the council's website, which includes information regarding live streaming, noise interference, rules of debate and voting. Members are requested to ensure that they are familiar with the protocol. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? In that case,
Can I just for the public,
yes.
Hilary, I'm sorry to be a nuisance, but the word members, I think, is always a bit peculiar. Members of what? Some club? So it's what we mean by councillors, isn't it?
It is what we mean by councillors, and I do apologise. Maybe we'll change.
It's not your fault. It's just a weird thing, that bit of language, that's all.
Yeah, maybe we need to change that slightly so that it makes it more comfortable, but thank you. But over to you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, the language of bureaucracy, and there is a little bit more bureaucracy to do. Just to say, we have apologies from Councillor Kay Tart, and I understand Ian Albert, Councillor Ian Albert is here substituting for Councillor Tart, so welcome Ian. And we've got Councillor Michael Muir here substituting for Councillor Michael Weeks, so welcome to you as well. Have we got any other apologies? I think that was it. That's it, Chair. Yeah, okay. Right, here we go. This meeting is about community engagement in the age of social media. Social media very high on people's agendas these days. Just ask the President of the United States. Welcome to all those who are participating this evening. In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on ModGov and the film recording via the NHDC YouTube channel. Councillors are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. A detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. Please, could any councillors who have not yet registered the new ModGov app on their tablet remain at the end of the meeting to do so? That sounds very schoolmarmish, doesn't it? Please see me after the lesson. Right, notification of other business. I have none. So it now says the introduction by the joint chairs. This cabinet panel is jointly chaired by myself and Judy Billing. Judy is the portfolio holder that deals with community matters, and I am the portfolio holder that deals with enterprise and cooperative development. So we sort of chair each other's panels. So it's my turn tonight. Each meeting will focus on a particular theme, and the members, the councillors the members will choose the themes for future meetings. You see, there's the confusion between members and councillors. The members will choose the themes for future meetings. Although to start us off, Judy and I have chosen the themes for the first two meetings. This is the second meeting of this new panel. Our first meeting, which took place last month, focused on cooperative development, and this meeting will focus on the other half, which is community engagement. Judy Billing and I are joint chairs and will take turns in chairing meetings. We will invite people and organisations to make contributions related to the theme of the meeting, and will, wherever possible, include the views of members of the public and organisations attending to watch the meeting. If you would like to speak, this is going to be really confusing now. If you would like to speak during the meeting, please could you use the blue raise hand button in Zoom, which is located in the participants section at the bottom of your screen. This makes it easier to see who wishes to speak. Now, there's a lot of people in, so I will try and be alert when you raise your hand and invite you in to speak. But if I miss you, just wave and shout and scream at me. Right, Judy, I think it's for you to set the scene.
Yeah, very, very briefly, because really we're here to hear from the members of the public and organisations outside the council who've come to join us. Welcome everybody to the meeting. I hope that this can be a useful forum for ideas for community engagement in North Herts. The main objective of the meeting really I thought would be to discuss how we as councillors and as a council communicate with the community and with community groups, particularly using social media, and consider I've explained what I mean by realistic in a minute, but the realistic expectations of this method of communication. Because for those of you who don't know, as Facebook pages have proliferated, I can particularly give Hitchin as an example, whereas Mark and Chrissy Russell know there are now so many Facebook pages devoted to the name of Hitchin. We are from Hitchin, we're all from Hitchin, we love Hitchin. One day I'm sure there'll be we want to be precious about Hitchin. But there are all sorts of Facebook pages that all of us all over the district are dealing with, either as geographical ones or as communities of particular interest, like some of the ones that have sprung up specifically to help people through this period of pandemic. And one of the problems that councillors face is the apparent expectation that we are reading all of those Facebook pages 24 hours a day for anything that could possibly affect our work as councillors and the way in which we relate to the community, and that we really ought to be replying to them all within 33 seconds. And so that's one of the issues that it would be helpful to discuss with you, as well as ways that you think we could better engage with the community as a whole. So that's why I thought it would be handy to get a bunch of people together, such as yourselves, so that we can have a full and frank discussion around any themes to do with communication that you want to. And that was supposed to be a brief introduction, and I've gone on and on. So back to you, Keith.
Thank you. Thanks, Judy. Right, if there are no questions on the format, we'll get into the, oh, Tony, I see I spotted a hand, brilliant. Hiya.
Hi there. What would be good to understand before we sort of jump into the wider discussion is what the current social media policy is for the council. Do you have one? Is there one for councillors or for the council as a whole? So we know what the starting point is and where we need to possibly get to.
Yeah.
Judy?
Well, yes, we do. And I've been reminded of it and sent it earlier today. But in fact, I might ask Sarah to come in and help us with this, because in fact, the social media policy relates more to the council as a whole than to the way in which individual councillors relate with organisations and groups. Is that right, Sarah?
Evening, everyone. I'm the communications manager for the council. So we do have a social media policy, and basically, yes, it is related to our corporate communications accounts. So the North Herts District Council, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I mean, I can give you a quick, in terms of the policy itself, we do have kind of response time, so we aim to respond to anything within one working day, ideally. However, there's quite a lot of information in there about, you know, we don't respond to everything, we only respond to kind of very specific service requests, and because otherwise we wouldn't be able to cope with it. But yeah, there's a lot of information in there, so if anyone has anything specific they want to ask, then I'm more than happy to help.
Chair, sorry to butt in, but the social media policy and the communications policy are all published on this agenda under the public participation item, so they can be looked at on the website.
Okay, thanks, Hilary. Is that all right, Tony? You've got a...
That's perfect. Yeah, it was just, and you know, it's more so to not understand where the starting point is, so we can then discuss where we need to get to.
All right, that's brilliant. Okay, right. Well, we've got representatives from a number of organisations participating tonight, and so I'm going to ask each organisation to spend a couple of minutes briefly introducing who you are and what you do and why you're attending this evening. I mean, we discussed a bit of that earlier, and then we will move on to a wider discussion about community engagement in the age of social media. So if I make a start, I know Joe and Jonathan Scott from Royston, I'm aware that you need to leave the meeting shortly. So could I start with you, please?
I think they gave their apologies, Chair, actually.
Oh, have they already?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so they can't tell us anything about their organisation. Right, we'll go then straight to Caroline Major, Codicut Food Bank. Caroline.
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for having us. So I work with a group of volunteers in Codicut. We set up a food bank in response to COVID need in early April. It's held its own. We kind of thought it was a 1 month or 2 month, see where we get, and we're still going and just increasing our network. Yeah, gradually and slowly, I guess. We're serving about 28 families on a regular basis at the moment. Some people dipping in and out, some coming to us weekly. We've just taken on, made an agreement with Nebworth that we'll be serving that community as well. And some of the other villages, Welling is also using us, and we've got people coming in from Hatfield and Welling Garden. So we will deliver to a smaller local area, and other people are coming in by appointment or to a walk-in session. I think from today, one of the things that we talked about in preparation for this meeting, and Sean is also part of our volunteer group, was about how we use social media very much to reach to get to the hard to reach groups, and for those people that don't use social media. So whilst this is focused on social media, if people use social media, they use it and can find their way around generally. So for me, the question is more about how we capture people outside of that group as well, and how we work with the council. Oh, excuse me. Oh, that was timely, wasn't it?
You just love Zoom.
And how we capture, because we have a huge influx of resources coming in from a number of different areas, but it's how do we reach those people that maybe aren't using social media? So there's kind of a little bit of listening for me and a bit of learning.
Okay.
Thank you,
Caroline. Before I move on to the next one, I see Michael Muir has his hand up. So Michael, I don't know if you want to come in at this point.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have to declare an interest when Vivian Reid it's turn to speak, because I am on her committee.
Okay.
And I won't take part or vote in the debate.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's going to be any great decision making tonight. It's about gathering.
Voting, is there really, Keith?
No, we're just gathering information and getting people's views and how we can help them and they can help us. Right, let's go on to Alex Snelling.
Good evening.
Hello, Alex.
Hi. So before I introduce myself, I should cover off quickly. Joe and Jonathan Scott run our evangelical church here in Royston in the feed bank, and they make a fantastic contribution to our community. So I'm sorry they can't be with us, but yeah, what they much appreciated. So I'm Alex Snelling. I'm here because I was involved with the Royston versus Coronavirus group. We were set up during the pandemic, and indeed this evening I've been out handing out telephones as we set up again. We answered going on 1,000 calls for help from local residents, from the most trivial things to regular prescription requests to one-offs, really all through the pandemic period from about March onwards. So my experience is more in two ways, one with social media in a transitory sense. We popped up a Facebook group in Royston, so these groups that come and go. And of course, the experience of an average sort of North Hertfordshire person looking at our local Facebook groups and Twitterati and all the rest of it. So very, very happy to join you all.
Thanks very much indeed. And then going from Alex just down the road a bit to Vivian and Baldock. Right, I think Vivian, you've got to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, right. Well, we started the Baldock Coronavirus Support Group in March at the very beginning of the pandemic, and we closed it down in August, and we actually helped about 1,000 people with prescriptions and shopping. Well, it wasn't 1,000 people, 1,000 requests. It boiled down probably to about 150 people and 41 people with food parcels. From then, we have developed the Baldock Futures Fund, which is a hardship fund, where we're, again, this is quite a timely meeting to be at, because I have contacted many of the local organisations such as schools and health visitors and various other sort of local publications, but it's the same story, I think, of actually reaching the people who are hard to reach. And it's not necessarily people that perhaps are not social media savvy. It's people that are at really maxing out their credit cards, really in a bit of a state, and they usually find, actually, which we found when we were dealing with the first lockdown, was they're not the people that you would expect them to be. And we had some very, professional people, people who just fell on hard times, and it's reaching out to that group, really, which is quite difficult. We also cater for the villages, Ashwell, Hinksworth, Radwell and Clothall. So we
Thank you. I'm quite interested, Vivian, and for you, and also for Alex. I mean, Alex described his group as sort of transitory. Where the impetus came from? Where did you get the people? Was it an appeal on social media to help, or where were the people brought in to accomplish this?
Interesting. I started it, and it went out on social media that we were starting this. A whole group. I mean, Michael Muir was one of the founding members. Jim McNally, Val Shanley. So all the councillors joined with me, as well as the church. St Mary's Church in Baldock they were absolutely amazing. They gave us a telephone, they gave us an office. It was amazing, the support.
Okay.
But we started off, there was somebody who could put a Facebook page together who contacted me, and we ended up with about 160 volunteers.
Wow.
Really. We couldn't.
Was Alex? Sorry, can I ask Alex? Was that the same with you? Was that
some sharp similarities and sharp differences, I think. I mean, ours was built on Facebook from the ground up, so it was a response to a local resident, Dave Carter, who kicked off the group. We didn't have any council involvement. We didn't have any town council involvement. We didn't have any church involvement. We subsequently got some very generous support from Steve Jarvis and Fiona Hill, which we very much appreciated. But really, it was a real ragtag bunch in Royston, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Nothing so sophisticated. And the two tools that really brought it together from a social media perspective were Facebook and WhatsApp, and very quickly became the operating model, working through those two tools.
And how many did you have at any one time?
We must have had about 60 to 70 volunteers, I would say, that were split up into 10 zones all over the town, plus a small group manning the phone lines and a small group of coordinators. So we felt it was a very good response from the community in Royston.
All right, I've got a hand up from Simon Harwood.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. It would be useful as the speakers are speaking. I mean, I've heard a lot about who they're communicating with and how they are communicating. As each of the speakers speaks, if they could just try and sum up what they're communicating about, what are the main, is it headlines, is it messages, is it deep technical detail, just so we can get an idea of what that level of communication is that's good. And it might be different for everybody, but it'd just be interesting.
I think initially, Simon, the idea was just to have some introductions, really. And then maybe move into greater depth when we've all heard from everybody. Is that right?
Yeah. So I've sidetracked people because I had a question that I wanted to find out more about, but I'll move it on and then move it back to a more general discussion. So we go from what was described as a transitory group now to a more established group. I've got Chrissy and Mark here from as a Facebook group that is well known and renowned in Hitchin. I wonder if you'd like to just introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Chrissy. This is Mark. We are Facebook admins for We Are From Hitchin, We Are From Letchworth, and We Are From Baldock. We deal with a bit of everything. When people have questions, when people want advice, they will post on the group. So we'll help them out that way.
We've got about 40,000 members altogether between the three groups.
Wow.
So it's quite a good audience.
Yeah.
It can be anyway.
And you
Okay.
do have very long conversations, don't you, between people about
Yes.
which shops should be allowed to be open and which shops shouldn't be allowed to be open.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Exactly. It's a balance sometimes, because sometimes you know it's going to kick off. It can be a simple dogs and fireworks post, but you just know that at the end of the day, you sometimes you've got to make a decision and think, no, we're not going to have that on there because it's Saturday evening. Everybody's been on the wine, so we'll just sort of leave that till another time.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
It must be very difficult to moderate, but I'm sure we'll get into that. Nick White from Royston Reporting. Nick White. Hello, Nick.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Yeah, pretty much reflecting what the last two people have just said. With Royston Report, we've got, I think it's over 14,200 people now, and I realise obviously with that amount of people, it does have a fair bit of clout. And one of the things since I was brought on as a admin last, I think about a year ago now, was one of the things was try and clean the page up. And what I'm trying to do is put out stuff from North Herts and the local police, who are notoriously bad at communicating with people. But mainly, it's the same sort of thing. It's getting people asking questions, trying to look for help. And the Royston versus coronavirus, I pushed that a fair bit on there as well, which of course helped to push it for them as well, which is, it's a community page. And that's what we're trying to do. And obviously we get the same problem: dogs, fireworks, cats going missing, and some things are just going to descend into arguments, but which we try to stop that if we possibly can. And I must admit, helping to run this page. I was on the We Are From Hitchin page, and I saw what was happening on there, which I've tried to introduce into the Royston one, because the Royston one is just like a Friday night outside the pub, everybody drunk free for all most of the time. But it's, we have cleaned it up a fair bit now.
Okay, thanks very much, Nick. And now we're going to say hello to Alethea Mashiri, Getting Rooted, I think.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Yeah, so as Keith said, I have a social enterprise called Getting Rooted, and we deal with community gardening projects in Hitchin. We have one in Westmill, the Sunnyside Estate, and a couple of beds that we support at the local food bank. The social enterprise also hosts a Hitchin Food Rescue Hub that's led by Emma Goulding. And yes, we just try to encourage gardening and outdoor learning and play for children across North Herts, towns and villages, mainly via social media. So a big thank you to Chrissy and Mark for sharing posts on, because of course that allows us, many more people to see what we're doing and to learn. And a thank you to North Herts District Council for the grant we just got for a classroom-sized greenhouse in Westmill.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Alethea. And now we move to Tony Williams. Hello, Tony, again.
Good evening. So I am chair of a community group, North Herts African and Caribbean Community, which is part of and will be part of a larger group, which is Diversity and Culture Group. Diversity and Culture Group being will be a group of community groups all coming together to speak as one voice. So yeah, we use social media a lot for promotion and advertising of events, discussing or putting information out that we think is interesting to the local population about wider public issues or social issues or diversity issues. It's probably quite interesting from a personal point of view. I used to do social media management. I was a marketeer, so I have a fairly good understanding of marketing, social media, engagement, So for us, it's at the moment we've been very much focused on Facebook because that's at the moment where our core group is. But the understanding of different social media platforms for different things and for different engagement for different groups is probably going to be quite key to what we're discussing here. I've heard everyone mention Facebook. I think I've heard a mention of Twitter, but there are more than that out there. So for engaging the younger community, we need to start looking at things like Snapchat or TikTok. They can be used, things like that. Obviously, WhatsApp, it's sort of grown into a media platform, but it's obviously a messaging tool in its main point of view. So I think that's going to be quite important, understanding the different platforms for different reasons and the different things within the platform. So we just run a Facebook page for information, sending out information. Obviously, the groups like Mark and Chrissy, and I think it was Nick run, they're about engagement. So it's about having a conversation and getting conversations started and getting people talking. They need a lot of moderating, as I'm sure they will quite happily testify to. A page, not so much, because you're putting information up and people will look, they'll take it in, they might comment, so you might need to reply. But that's pretty much it. It doesn't have that give and take engagement that a group will have. So looking at those sides of things would be quite interesting as well, because I think not everyone really understands the difference sometimes and doesn't always, like I say, look at exploring the different platforms there are and the different ways of managing those platforms as well. So yeah, that's where we are.
Okay, thanks, Tony. And next is Annie Sander. Hi, Annie. Oh.
Hi, sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. Hi, so I'm looking after a couple of special interest groups and pages on Facebook, all roughly related to waste. So co-founder of the Plastic-Free Hitching Group, which is also an initiative. So we use the group to, for engagement, wider engagement, people just asking, where can I get this plastic-free, or where can I recycle certain items, and that sort of conversation. And then the other bigger group that where I'm an admin is the Hitch and Reuse project, which took off quite a lot over the last year or so, where people basically post free items, and it's strictly free, so we don't allow any buying or reselling or anything. It's just items that would otherwise be taken to the recycling center, for example, people put on, and it's been a really big success. We had other people copying the group throughout Hertfordshire and throughout the country, actually, and we've got I think a dozen across Hertfordshire now, reuse groups. And all of these groups are obviously very specific interest groups, again, loosely around waste and helping people to reduce waste. Yeah, that's pretty much
Okay, thanks, Annie. That's brilliant. And next to Sue Watkinson. Hi, Sue.
Hi everyone. So I'm here today. I was invited on from the Hitchin Foods Provision team. So it's a group of us. We include Letchworth Food Bank, CEO Church, Roundtable, Rotary Club, Hitchin Volunteer Army. And we got together in March, as soon as we went into lockdown, to provide food vouchers for families who didn't normally focus on the normal hardship radars, who had been furloughed, suddenly lost their job, or suddenly had their hours cut. And we bridged the gap before either things changed or they got universal credits. We've seen probably about 100, 150 families, between 30 and 50 every month, but they've been different families in that they've come in and come out again as their situations have changed. But we've been using Facebook from the Rotary Club of Hitchin House and Hitchin Volunteer Army more as information giving, in that we've put all our posters and our flyers on there saying, if you need help. We've then referred them to an email box, because the people that we deal with do not want to engage with us via Facebook because of the nature of who we're dealing with. One, they're hard to reach, and two, they don't really want to shout about why they want us to help them send food vouchers. So we found it quite useful in that. And on the flip side, we've also used it in gathering money. We've got a Just Giving page, which we promote through several of our Facebook sites. And I just had a look, in 9 days, we've made £2,000 fundraising for our community Christmas hamper team, which is part of the same group. So, you know, we're a great lover of Facebook, but because of the people we deal with, we can't engage two ways. We've got to do it as information giving.
Okay. So that you how do they contact you? They just get in touch with you by phone, or?
No, we've got a food provision inbox. They email us, and we also give out. They have to email us because we have to give our vouchers out via email to save postage.
Of course, yeah.
Or text. And we found that the infographic that North Herts District Council provided, which these guys don't always look at Facebook, we can text that or email it out as well. So we find that these hard to reach people, they will email and they will text, but they won't necessarily engage in social media.
Okay, thank you. Right, we've got Council Voluntary Services. I'm not sure who's speaking for Council Voluntary Service. We should have 2 or 3 people here from NHCVS.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm from North Herts and Stevenage CVS.
Oh, Hannah, hi.
Yeah, and we've got Alex here as well, our chair.
Right.
But yeah, for those of you that don't know, North Herts and Stevenage CVS is a charity so we're an infrastructure charity, and we support the voluntary and community sector across all of North Hertfordshire and Stevenage. So we provide advice, training, guidance, and help with volunteer recruitment, management, a wide variety of resources that we have to support the sector, as well as run our own projects. So we run Team Hearts Volunteering, Reach Out Hertfordshire, Community Transport in in North Herts and Stevenage, as well as disabled children's play schemes across North Herts and Stevenage. So predominantly here to support the voluntary and community sector, a lot of small groups, a lot of new groups that want to set up, we provide support to. We want to sort of represent and be the voice of those groups, and we do social media training as well. So we're sort of here just to sort of listen and feedback as appropriate.
Okay, thanks Hannah very much. Citizens Advice North Herts, I know Rosie is here. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm Rosie. I'm here with Liberty, who's one of our trustees, and Kath Bennett, who is our community engagement manager. So she does look after our social media accounts. In case you don't know what we do, we work across North Hertfordshire and part of South Cambridgeshire, providing free, independent, impartial and confidential advice to anyone who lives or works in our area of benefit. We offer guidance to residents on most topics, but our top inquiry areas are, unsurprisingly, benefits, debt, employment, housing and relationships. And over the past 6 months, employment and housing we've seen huge rises in those inquiry areas as a result of coronavirus. As well as the advice, we do preventative work, awareness raising work to try and prevent people from ending up in crisis situations. And we also do campaigning work, which again, Kath looks after, to try and make things better and fairer for everybody, not just those people who come specifically to seek our help. When it comes to social media, as Sue was saying, given our clients, we use, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and we use it more as an information source rather than engagement, given that a lot of our clients would not engage with us publicly on social media. We've been trying to make our social media less corporate and a bit more personal, a bit more fluffy. I'm not quite sure how successful we've been. I think one of the things that I'm interested in exploring actually is, obviously we use social media to try and reach our beneficiaries. There's the whole issue of people who are digitally excluded, which is probably something else altogether, but also how we as community groups can use it to connect with each other and use it better for making more effective referral pathways between organisations. And the council's Engage page has been really good for that, for being able to see who's around. But I think there's a lot of potential for us as groups in using it more effectively. And I also think that we need to be aware of what we can do better on social media, but also of the limitations of it. I mean, I know I scroll through it mindlessly. So if I see something, I might not even take it in. So if we're using social media as one of our prime ways of communicating with people, I'm not sure it's always as effective as we want it to be.
Thank you, Rosie, very much. And we've got Kath Borton here from Royston. Hi, Kath.
Hi there. Hi there. I run the Listing magazine in Royston. It's a community magazine which goes out to 16,500 households as a printed magazine. It shares a lot of community and business news. So some of the organisations that we've worked with are here this evening as well. And we use social media really to share our content out online as well as in the print magazine. And I'm a firm believer that the two things work hand in hand in community. I think a few of you have acknowledged that trying to get that message across to people who aren't on social media by using local publications that are, you know, parish magazines, if you like, it does work in that respect, but also by bringing it into social media as well. So I think using it for information sharing, having very visual artwork that actually catches the eye as people are scrolling through is quite a key way that we've managed to engage our audience, who are local people in the community and the business community in Royston itself and the whole SG8 area.
Thanks, Kath. That's great. I mean, I certainly think we've been having the same sort of discussion within the council as well. We do value and are pleased that we have an Outlook magazine that still goes out on a regular basis, and that's still a very important part of contact between the council and perhaps the harder to reach communities. Thank you, everybody, for your introductions. Is there anybody else present who we might have missed who would like to introduce themselves or say who they are? If not, I don't see any raised hands there. Just better check. No. Okay. So I think there was sort of 2 or 3 questions that were sent out in advance of this meeting to sort of start on the discussion. It was, where and how do you get information from the council? Because that will help certainly the authority to be more effective. What is effective about this or the approach to communicating, and what is missing or could be improved about our communication? I mean, that's just from our point of view, but I take the point that Rosie made. It's about how all you organisations out there can communicate with each other. Judy, do you want to add anything at the moment, or?
Not really. I mean, it's been fascinating hearing the variety of introductory pieces. Simon made the point earlier on that it'd be good to know about the different ways in which the local organisations and Facebook pages try or need or want to communicate with the council, whether there's a distinction in people's minds about when they're communicating with the council as a corporate entity or local councillors as individuals. That would be interesting to hear about as well. And just any ways in which we can engage more effectively, more pleasantly, or just generally better, on what we can do to help your organisations with your communications across the district as well. Just all those things on a postcard, please, by 9 o'clock tonight. No, it'd be just really good to hear people's views.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got some hands going up now, so I'll take them in the order I think they went up. So it's Alex first. Alex Stelling.
Thank you. Sorry, I think we've got a couple of Alexes. It was just picking up on that point, actually, and what you're more interested in hearing about. I really think it's 2 different answers as to whether it's NHDC or individual councillors acting, not exactly in a personal capacity, but certainly without the full weight and majesty of corporate branding behind them or council branding behind them, because it seems to me it'd be 2 different answers coming back. I just wondered if you wanted to focus more on one than the other or speak to both.
I'd like to hear about both. I don't know about Keith.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm more fascinated about individual councillors. But yes, I think Judy's quite right. I think it would be nice to have an overview of both, but we're interested in how our council can be more effective and then how we as individuals can be more effective. Thank you, Alex. Kath Borton.
Yeah, I think yeah, but picking up on that point, I think I was looking at the social media channels for NHDC, the official accounts, and there's some brilliant content on there, and I think that's really great to have that. And there's some engaging content when the messages are information is being shared from NHDC. A couple of observations is there were some gaps for Royston, which I noticed. So, for example, the local councillor surgeries focused on the Hitchin surgeries, but I know through Ruth Davis, there's quite a lot in Royston as well. And so I think having a consistent approach on there can then help with engagement in your individual communities, because I know that Nick White from the reporting page and us at the listing and Royston First as well will pick up from the NHDC feed and share out. So we're engaging, if you like, at a bit more of a grassroots level with the people that we're working with, but we need the relevant content to be able to do that. So, for example, I know there's a recent press release and social media post about places in North Herts that were still open or closed during this new lockdown, and Royston Leisure Centre was mentioned, but Royston Market was missing. There was something about Baldock on there. So I'm not trying to say, oh, it's all about Royston, but it's just remembering that there's four different main communities that you have, and if they're always all included, then I'm sure those who are sharing information out would be able to do it more effectively, because it'd be relevant to who we're sharing to.
Okay, thank you. Vivian?
You're muted, Vivian.
Sorry. Yeah, I would say that our councillors within our town are incredibly visual. They're always around the town. They're always in the cafes. They talk to people all the time, and so people know them, and I think would approach them probably more so than they would read what's going on from the content that's given over from the local authority, if you like. I think our councillors are probably not unique in what they do. Probably other councillors do the same, but they certainly, their presence is known. They are known people, and I think that's really helpful. But there is another thing I would say is that piggybacking on other organisations, we had a very successful newsletter. It was probably the jewel in the crown, actually, of our communication that went out every week. And that was sent out by OWL as well. That went all over our community. So we sort of joined forces, if you like, with other organisations to distribute information about us, which was incredibly helpful. But it was also getting in touch with what the local people wanted. Like, we did a big thing on VE Day, and that was sort of really led by the community in Baldock and some of the elderly people that remember other celebrations and even the war years, So it was really ground upwards, I think. But I think the visibility of the councillors is probably more important than communications through social media.
Okay, it's an interesting point. I mean, I think it's a combination of all things, but it's certainly good to have a visual presence. But I think sometimes there are people who need to be reached out to, really. Alex, are you coming back in on one? I see your hands up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's just coming back in on the same point, really, about visibility and what that means today. I think, if you have got the opportunity to be physically visible, that's great, but the virtual visibility is incredibly important as well. And I think for individual councillors, what the social media element gives you an opportunity to develop is proximity through, in this instance, Facebook. And if you look at what someone like Rob Inwood, the mayor here in Royston, is doing, that's incredibly effective. He's doing a couple of things which I think are really building that proximity. One, he shows up a lot. His volume is high in terms of his volume of communication is very high. It's not big things. It's just turning up and people are seeing how people are getting on, but there's a clear kind of effort going in. And secondly, he's very, very responsive. So when he knows, when he doesn't know, but he will come back and respond to comments and people can see that he's live and responsive. It's terribly risky. I don't think anybody's going to thank you for this. You will get flamed and you will get blamed for everything and everybody will think everything is your responsibility. But I think the showing up, showing proximity and being responsive is really, you know, putting some good mileage in for some figures who are choosing to do it more than others.
Yeah, no, take your point. I think you're right. Right, we've got I've got Tony, and then I'm going to come to Mark and or Chrissy. Tony.
Hi there. Yeah, it's just more so understanding what you mean by visibility from the councillors, because if we use Facebook as the example, you know, unless you are friends with that councillor on Facebook, their visibility is only limited to the people they're engaging with, that they're friends with. So is it a case of setting up them as public pages so everyone can then like and follow if they want to get information from those councillors? Because obviously that's what we do with the council page. Or, you know, how do you propose having that visibility and wider engagement with the public for individual councillors? Because it's quite a time intensive to be posting and responding and doing that sort of things. Or is it more about finding other ways to do it, possibly? You know, just as a question more than anything.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think I'll take that back to a point Judy made early on about the impossibility in terms of time of councillors responding to every Facebook post from every person or every organisation that's made one. But yeah, okay. Mark and Chrissy.
Yeah, hello. This is for Rosie, really, with the Engage, you know, the Facebook Engage page. I believe that it is private. It's a private group, and I've always felt, and Chrissy has too, that it'd be better if it was public, so people didn't have to join the group to see what North Herts District Council were trying to engage about.
Yeah, that's the page was set up by the council, not by us. And I know that I do remember there was some debate when it was set up about whether it should be public or private. I don't know if there's anyone, any of the officers who are involved in setting that up here today who could remind us about that.
Don't think we've got Clem Morgan here, have we?
We've
got Reuben, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Reuben.
That's absolutely fine. I'm going to substitute. I'm Claire's manager, so
sorry.
The team. I just want to pick up a couple of things, really. I'll do it in reverse this way. We did have a very long conversation about the Engage page being private or public, but I think the conversation we've had previously about, you know, you could end up with a page that turns out to be like a pub brawl at the end of the evening. So we tried to moderate that. Clearly, we can look at that and review it, but the needs and the desire of the Engage page were to get that information out and raise that visibility to people and not get drawn down into those minutiae, which you could then spend all your time dealing with. So it's getting those messages out, getting people connected together. We could look at that again about whether it be public or private, but for now it seems to work that way. But if you, and this is why we're having this today, if you guys say to us, it doesn't work as well as it could, we can look at that again. But I will say, having listened to this conversation, people need different things. So I don't think we're going to get it right or going to be perfect all the time. But if you can point to where we could do better, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can moderate it to an extent to stop. Once you've put a post up there, you can turn comments off. You know, if you want to say about something, turn comments off, stop it turning into a bun fight at the end of the day. And you can also, the same you can do that with anything. You can moderate so much, you know, who joins, but it's just getting your message across. Make it public. You know, if you don't want people to comment on it, just turn it off. If it's really important, pin it to the top of the page as an announcement, so it's right up there. That's the thing you want people to see first when they're going onto your page, you know, and that's the way to moderate it. You know, we still have content in our group. We'll know when we get to a point we've got to turn comments off, but it's still there, so people can still read it, you know, which is better than for you, I think, having it private. If you had it public, everybody can see it, you know, it just appears straight away on Facebook. And, you know, obviously it's your choice, you know, but I think you can still moderate to an extent.
That's really helpful. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Judy, did you want to? You've had your hand up.
Yeah, it was just really in response to Alex's point, and it might sound like dancing on whatever it is, the head of pins. I don't know, whatever the phrase is. But he's quite right that some of us simply wouldn't have the time, the energy, or the content to be constantly talking about what we're doing as individual councillors on Facebook pages. I certainly wouldn't, partly because I'm actually not interesting enough to be able to think of something fascinating to say about what I'm doing every 5 minutes. But what I do try to do, and I don't know whether this is useful or not, so maybe it's handy to hear from the people here, particularly Mark and Chrissy, because they're on my domain, if you like, is that when I am reading through the content of what's going on, if I think I've got something useful and practical to say about the subject matter, then I will intervene. Hopefully not to blow trumpets for myself, but just to actually move the conversation on or offer practical solutions. And I just feel that that's the most I can personally do, because I'm not going to start advertising myself on a daily basis on various pages. And so really it's a question of, is that helpful? And is it helpful if we don't be doing it 24/7? Or does it cease to be helpful if we're not on duty doing that 24/7? They're my questions. Thanks,
Okay.
Keith.
All right. Well, we've got quite a lot of hands up now, so I'm going to go to Ruth Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I just wanted to come back on the Engage North Herts page. So I follow all these North Herts pages, and I think the thing I found frustrating, and coming back to the question about it not being public, is that I can't share it. And because of that, the way it's been set up. And so I think that Mark Russell's comments were very, very helpful about how to make the page public so it's shareable without, and turn comments off so it doesn't have to take up a lot of officer time in moderation, because I appreciate that's a huge task. But I personally would like to have it shared. And I think this comes back to what Kath Boughton was saying about the messages not getting out in Royston. I think is often because it's on Engage North Herts and we're not able to reshare it very easily, whereas all of the councillors local councillors would reshare it if they could. So I personally would value that being made, at least the sharing option being made available on that site.
Okay,
so maybe
thanks.
Reuben can take that forward.
Thanks, Ruth. We'll do that in the wrap up at the end. Simon Harwood.
Thanks, Chair. It was a bit of a point, come a question, and with the greatest respect, I think there's a lot of comments here that seem to be mixing apples and pears. And what do I mean by that? I mean, it's not clear whether, and I think Mr. Williams, as I suggested there, is sort of a professional media manager, are people wanting to communicate with councillors or the council? And that's two very different entities. I appreciate it's quite complex and sometimes not understood, but one is not the other, and the others are very different. And my personal view is the council is very well placed to put official policy and so forth upon those social media pages. The councillors can post, but often it becomes political as opposed to factual. And I think there is danger there in councillors being on social media. If anybody wants to contact me, and in fact, I actually get an awful lot of letters. I'm actually really unusual in my ward, that my ward's quite elderly. and people still write letters to me, and I answer all my emails and all my letters in my casework. I don't need to be posting on Facebook for a lot of that. I hope the content that we get, anything that does need to go on Facebook, I use North Harts Conservatives to go through and post out. So, sorry, there's a bit of a statement there, but the question is, we need to clarify social media for council or councillors, because I think there's a very different strategy there.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's what tied in with what Tony said. Right, I'm going to Helen Oliver.
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute.
Hi, Helen.
What I don't know if this is helpful, and I'd quite like to hear some feedback about how people, I can't promise I will change what I do, but about how people feel about how I handle the difference between getting into really long question and answer sessions in Facebook groups and failing to respond, which is where if I see somewhere like Judy, where I think, oh, I know the answer to that question, I can be useful, or if I suspect that the person might be in my ward or that I could point them to who their counsellor is in their ward, I'll tend to message them once in the thread. And then if they want to keep talking, I ask them to direct message or email me, because otherwise I'm also a bit concerned that sometimes I might start prompting people to share information that's very personal, and that's not an appropriate place to do that. And I might be tempting them to, you know, compromise their own privacy, when actually it would be better for them to come direct. And also, I think if after the fact someone wishes they hadn't got into quite such a discussion about something, if you've asked them to direct message you, you can both be really confident that you know that you're having a one-to-one conversation now, and that both of you are clear that there's a question and that it needs a response. And I find that approach quite helpful, but I don't know if that seems sensible to the rest of the group.
Okay, thanks, Helen. I'm going to Tony again now. Tony Williams.
Yeah, so I think we're having two very different conversations here, because there's two subjects. One is information sharing and using social media for doing that, and the other one is engagement, so speaking to individual counsellors, and they are two completely separate things. You know, for like with regards to the engaged group, the way I saw it was groups and organisations sharing information about what they're doing, so they can get that information out, and other relevant organisations might be able to share it and know what's going on in the community. That's the way I always took that engaged group to be, hence it being private and not having that level of discussion or being open to the public. But there's no reason you couldn't set up an engage North Harts District Engagement page, which then is public, and you can put that information up on there. You can take comments off if you want to, and that information then can be shared from there if need be, for information sharing purposes. Engagement with counsellors is a whole nother subject, because like a few counsellors said, you are going to get a whole lot of backlash from angry people, or people who just want to have a moan, or, you know, there's a pothole at the bottom of my road, why haven't you done anything about it? Even though that comes under the Highways and Hearts Council. See, I've been learning something. But yeah, there's that engagement side of things and I think having many channels for people to engage is important. So, you know, having a page or a social media presence so they can direct message you if that's what they want, or you've got your email addresses public, which you do, so they can email you, or an address if they want to write to you. So having lots of channels so they can choose their most comfortable form of communication with you, great. But using social media for that, I'm not sure that's necessarily the best idea. Information sharing all day, every day. That's what, you know, social media is about. Community discussions within the community, great, get involved if you want to, but again, you know, be aware that there are people who are going to jump on it for, like say, political reasons. So yeah, I think we need to sort of separate the two and decide what part we're discussing and what's going to be right for each thing.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Yeah, and that's going to be a good outcome from this, the fact that we're talking about all of these things. Alexander Gerosi, who's a member of the public, who's not joined us yet this evening. So good evening to you.
Right, am I hearable?
Yes, indeed.
Good. Okay, Alex Gerosi, I'm the chair of the North Harts CVS. Just a couple of very quick points, really. I think that just picking up on what Tony's just said, the problem is sometimes that whether you're whether it's on behalf of clients or whether it's voluntary organisations trying to get some ideas about funding or whatever, sometimes it's not clear when they talk to councillors what actually the councillor is representing, whether it's their own views or whether there is another place they should be going for the corporate view. And certainly at CVS, we have managed to have some conversations with people like Martin and Judy, etc., which obviously gives you some kind of comfort that you're a bit closer to the kind of the source of power. Yeah. But sometimes when you get individual councillors, they're saying, yes, great, we support you, definitely support you, everything you say is great, but actually it's not clear really what the mandate they've got is to speak on that subject. The other thing I was just going to say earlier on in the meeting was that there is actually there are some guidelines in terms of the members' protocol about what members should and shouldn't be saying. And sometimes I think it's important that members remember that when they kind of join a corporate body, that there is some obligation to have some consistency in how that goes across the board. Otherwise, voluntary sector organisations are going to find themselves possibly talking to very well-intentioned local councillors, but actually where that goes after that is a bit unclear.
Okay, thanks, Alex, very much. Ruth coming back in on something?
Yes, I thank you, Keith. I just wanted to respond to Helen. Really interesting what you said. I know it's a bit of a councillor discussion, but maybe it'd be nice to have the public's view on this as well. I totally agree with you. It's not, you don't want to play out a private conversation publicly on Facebook. That's really, really unhelpful. And I think most of what you said was really sensible. However, I've seen it where it's actually better to put it publicly. So for example, I posted that we had a councillor surgery on social media. Some people responded and put up, I can't come to the surgery, but will you please answer this question about potholes here or whatever it is? And we had a discussion in the surgery about it. And one of the councillors said, oh, I'll private message them. And I said, no, don't do that. Respond publicly, because then everyone has heard the answer, because it actually is a public issue. So I think it all depends a little bit what the issue is. So if it's about drainage and water and flooding and potholes in a particular area of Royston, as it was, it's actually useful for everyone to hear the answer and see the answer and read it. So I really think it depends what it is. And actually, I would value hearing what members of the public feel about this.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. I'm going back to Kath now. Kath Borton.
Hi there. I'm actually picking up on both now Ruth and Helen's comment now. I like the way that Helen's approaching it, to be honest, because I think to be on social media as a councillor, it's about being visible and accessible to people. I think looking at it from the public's point of view, they want to feel listened to, they want to feel heard, they want to feel they've got a line of communication with somebody who cares. And I think when you take it back to that, it almost becomes quite simple, really. You just want to be able to put your name there. You're a councillor for a reason, because you want to engage with your community. So social media is just, in simple terms, it's just a place where people are gathered, where your audience is gathered. So I think by putting your own your own personal answers to things makes people feel valued, and it's a very good way of the council and the councillors actually reaching people. But I fully agree, when it gets into discussions, you give them the avenue to be able to take it off social media when it isn't for public consumption in that way. So I think the whole communication strategy works together, from corporate messages coming out that can be shared as information, but then very personal conversations in your various reporting pages and local forums and groups. So I think it does all work together in that way.
Okay,
thank you. That's really helpful analysis, actually, of that. Felt like a jigsaw puzzle being put together a bit there. Thank you very much, Kath. That's really helpful.
Thank you. I sometimes think it is thinking of it in a really simple terms. What do people actually want to hear from you? And then it doesn't sound so overwhelming. I sometimes think of social media as it's just another form of communication. We can get a bit scared by it sometimes, but actually it's just people. It's people talking to people in a different format. So
yeah.
Keep it simple. Like it. Thank you. As someone who is desperately scared of anything to do with social media, I can appreciate that. Right, we've got a hand up. Somebody's just reminding me I've got a hand up here somewhere.
Nick is waving at you.
Oh, is he? Okay, sorry, it's not come up on screen. That's why I'm not looking there. Sorry, Nick, do come in.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'd just like to say with sort of two aspects. One is North Herts, when they're posting stuff out. I know there are, and I can't remember the names of the people who, I do it myself, but I think there are people within North Herts District Council who do post to Royston Reporting. It comes up under their name. Is there a reason why North Herts District Council couldn't post direct? Because that way you'll see the name North Herts District Council. People maybe take a little bit more notice of it. And the other thing, as far as engaging with councillors goes, I would say as I see what goes on a daily basis, and certainly after certain hours, engaging with people maybe after certain times of the evening on a Friday and Saturday night is probably not the best time when people have had a couple of drinks. They tend to get very argumentative. And if there's something to be an answer to be or a question to be replied to, it can be left till the next day when things have calmed down a little bit. And you don't have to answer straight away, because as we know, a lot of stuff goes along political lines, and depending on what's going on in the country is what I see happens on the Royston reporting page. I know it does on the Hitchin one as well. But I think but certainly North Herts, it would be good if they could post direct. I've been tackling this with the police as well, North Herts Police. I asked them, why can't you post direct? Why are you relying on me to then post it? Because I think they've got, if I remember right, they've got about less than 1,000 people looking at their page, and I think you've got about 4,500 looking at yours. And if you could post direct, it would get the information out so much quicker.
All right, thanks, Nick. I think you're quite right there about knee-jerk reactions as well. Quite often it's better to sleep on something. Right, yes. Alex, back in. Alex Snelling.
I just wanted to come back in on the Engage Hearts page on Facebook and the debate private versus public. Now, I understand being private, but I just wonder how you're encouraging people to join that. I'd certainly never heard of it, so I've gone on over now and filled the form in and applied to join. So it can possibly fulfill a very good function as a small private group, but only if you publicize it and invite people to it and use it as an actively managed thing. If it just sits there, then it will date and it won't fulfill that cascade function.
Okay, thank you for that, Alex. I'm sure that will be being taken on board by officers as we're discussing it. I've got Ian Albert next.
Thanks, Keith. Hi. Yeah, it's a slightly different question or subject, but I think related, because I think lots of people have mentioned social media this evening, and I shared Judy's view that Kath Morton's explanation was excellent, and I should have recorded it so I could steal it for another occasion. But I think the other area that the council is going to be reviewing, and we've got Sarah Kingsley on which you may want to say more, is actually looking at reviewing the website, and I guess website, and I know social media is I guess lots of people what we talk about much more now, but the website is full of valuable and useful information, and I think it's how well actually one links those two things together, and actually making sure that there's a good reference back to actually a source of information on the website where you can explain quite a bit more. For example, we've been going through, Keith and I, on actually doing a lot of stuff with officers around business grants to support businesses through the pandemic. And you clearly on social media you could say so much, but clearly the largest source of information is what we put on the website. And I do wonder whether sometimes people forget the website because they're only looking at social media. And I'd be interested to hear what if anyone has a view on that.
Okay, Ian, I've got a couple more hands, and then we are probably going to have to pull this to some sort of conclusion. But we're going to go Tony Williams, and then I've got Sue Watkinson and Simon Harwood. So Tony.
Hi there. So there's two short things. I'll keep it fairly brief. In response to what Councillor Albert was saying, I think links from social media to websites are great for information sharing. And what people find out generally is they end up going down a rabbit hole and finding out more information about other things they weren't necessarily looking for. So yeah, that's always a great thing, but it's you've got to make sure that the website is engaging. And having looked at the North Herts website, it might need a bit of a revamp. I know these things cost money, but it's not the easiest to navigate sometimes from personal experience. But the other thing was just more of a question, so we understand a little bit more about time management when it comes to doing these things. So it was a question for the people that manage Facebook groups. How time intensive is it? You know, Hitchin Hearts has got 20,000 people, I think. Royston Page, I think, has got about 14, 15,000. How labour intensive, how much time is spent, and across how many admins at, you know, dealing with that? Because obviously that becomes a question when, if you want to make a group public or private, or how you're going to put information out there. So it'd be interesting to know that.
Okay, Tony, right, I'm going to move on to Sue. Hi, Sue.
Yeah, it was just for me that the North Herts Engagement Web Facebook page, I think, is absolutely brilliant. The infographics and the content on there is really good. It needs not to be private because, one, I didn't know about it, and two, none of my friends know about it. And we all live in Hitchin, but none of us know about it. And the only reason I know about it was I came to a food provision meeting. So I'm part of a Rotary Club in Hitchin, and none of the members know about it. So it's not getting out to the people that it should be getting out because it's private. And then when they do know about it, they can't be asked to fill in the form.
Okay.
They're not going to do it.
Fair enough. Simon Harwood.
Yeah, just a quick question, really. I mean, obviously, not that there are really any advantages to coronavirus, but I guess one of them could be that obviously all of the council meetings are now virtual. So everything is on YouTube. And I've just had a quick glance there beforehand. Most of the meetings are getting at maximum 5 members of the public. And I suspect some of those 5 members are actually councillors that aren't in the meeting. And I'm just wondering what the thoughts of the public are. I mean, we've been more open than we ever have been with respect to what goes on in the council meetings. I suspect I know why you're not watching the meetings, haven't been in some of them. But nonetheless, I'm just wondering if you think that's a useful channel. I mean, how do we take those YouTube channels, which are full of information, and get those out to the public so people can understand better what happens in the council?
Okay, Simon. And there's your answer, Ian, about if you want to pinch Kath's words, you can go back on YouTube and see what she said.
I regularly do.
Sarah Kingsley.
Hello. Can I just come the first one on Engage North Herts, just to be clear on the purpose of Engage North Herts, it is actually it's a private group because it's a group specifically for community groups and charities to share information with each other. So it's not for the general public necessarily, which is why it has been private to date. Obviously, we can have conversations offline, but that is why it's been set up as private. In terms of Royston reporting and other groups from a corporate comms perspective, I would say that until fairly recently, until Facebook changed its rules, we as a page weren't actually allowed to join other groups. We obviously can now, but I also would like to let you know that there are some groups that won't let district council in them because they don't want us on there, which is fine. But also just bear in mind the resource it takes for us to post in multiple groups across the district. Obviously, if there's a very specific local issue or we're trying to target a specific area, then we do try and do that where possible, but we can't possibly do it for every single community group. On the website, thank you, Ian, about the website. Just to give you an idea, when we do a survey every couple of years about where people do get their information from about the council, and it's like 74% of people get it from the website. Actually, only 9% of people get it from our social media. So just to give you that context. And also Ian is right, we are looking at rebuilding the website in the next year. And as part of that, we're hoping to bring on board some residents and get some user feedback and do some user testing. And so I'm sure we will be some willing volunteers for that.
Okay, that's good. I've got a couple more and then I'll go to Judy to wrap it up. But Mark and Chrissy Russell, comment there from you?
Okay. Yeah, just to say about, I can't see how many views this has got now on YouTube, but I didn't know until I'm here now at this meeting, this virtual meeting, that it was available on YouTube. So if we'd have known, we could have streamed this live to Hitchin, Letchworth and Baldock groups, and you'd have had 40,000 people looking at it. And we can see the engagement figures, you know, for a post within about half an hour, there'll be about 4,000 people on any one group looking at something. So, you know, that's one way to get all this out, what's going on at the council, and get people to sort of look at it. We can always turn comments on or off or moderate it, you know, but at least people will be able to see what's going on and what you're doing.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm told there are 8 people watching on YouTube at the moment. I've got some hand up from George Davies.
Thank you. I just wanted to come in on the comment that was made there about how the council puts out all of this information onto its own pages, but can't possibly know of all of the different various community pages and disseminate that information into all of them. And I think that's really where us as members come in and as ward councillors, which is to have the local awareness of which community pages are the big ones that really reach a lot of people, and to be resharing the council information out into those relevant pages. I certainly do that over in my own ward in Great Ashby, and I kind of think of that as that's part of a councillor's communication.
Okay, thank you, George. And now over to Judy.
Okay, thanks very much, Keith. I mean, it's been a really interesting conversation. I just wanted to pick up on the points that Simon Harwood made, actually, about how few people appear to be wanting to watch council meetings on YouTube. Good grief. Unless you were passionately interested in something, and Annie's made the point on the chat line that at the local plan meeting there were 100 people watching, but even that's not that many if you think about it. Why on earth would anybody want to watch a council meeting? Having said that, that's not just to denigrate me and us that I say that. It's not simply false modesty. But what we have learned about engaging digitally, people talked earlier in this meeting about those who weren't able to engage digitally and the disadvantage for them. But I have to tell you that some of us councillors have discovered through the pandemic that there are quite a lot of people out there who are more than happy to have a Zoom meeting about something really important to them that's happening in their neighbourhood than would ever have turned up to a shouty, drafty church hall to bellow at us and be angry in the past, where we could have told you as councillors that it would be the same 3, 4, 5 people. But I think particularly of some of the meetings that Ian and Val and I have had in Bearton Ward during this time, and another one we had about the queues and the disruption that was going on at Chicken George when it first opened. And we've got another one tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we're going to be talking about speeding in Grove Road. Well, that happens to be a very local thing. And next week we've got one about the effect of takeaways in Bearton Road and Brampton Park Road. There will be people at those Zoom meetings who would not have left their houses to come and be angry, but are happy to sit at meetings like this and debate in a really, really pleasant, firm but pleasant way. And I think there's something about being able to see yourself as I can see myself now that maybe moderates the anger and the facial expressions and those sorts of things. So I do think there's been some useful learning from this horrible, horrible time in all our lives that we need to take forward in terms of community engagement that might not just be relevant for me and Ian Albert in Beaton Ward Hitchin, but might be for all of us in the organisations that we're running. And the fact that we're having this conversation in this way, I think might be at least as productive as if we'd asked you all to come and speak to us in some fairly cold, I don't mean that in a physical sense, committee room in the council offices. And I think we need to take forward the positives of some of those. And thank you all ever so much for your contributions tonight. It's given us so much food for thought. And we may not have come to any instant conclusions, but I promise you we will continue talking about it and thinking about it and coming back to you for more advice and thought as the months go by. So that's it from me really, Keith. Just thank you so much to everybody.
Yeah, I think it's been really excellent, and I know this is a conversation that is going to continue for a little while to come, whether it probably on social media as much as anything as well. I'm going to ask Ruben to come in and just say where we're going with this from this point on, if he would. Hi, Ruben.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, and again, thank you. Echoing what Judy said, we've had some really good comments here today, and I've written copious notes. So. This is the information note, the work program is the bit where it all comes and is tied together. The information note sets out why the cabinet panel was established, the terms of reference there, what you can expect from us. So we'll take these notes, see if we can pull some actions together that we can positively influence. We'll put those on the action tracker. So every time you come to a meeting, you'll know that you said this and we have done that. Clearly, as this is the first meeting, there aren't any actions on there at the moment, but there will be going forward, and this conversation will go on. And that's all I really want to, two things I do want to say. One, we actively encourage attendance and engagement by you guys, clearly, and you've done that today, and I'd encourage you to come and do that again. I will also say that this is a non-decision making advisory body, but any recommendations for action that the panel come up with can be taken forward to cabinet via the executive members, but that's the discussion for later. So these things is not just a talking shop. Things can go forward to make those changes, and that's what I really want to say today, Keith. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ruben, and be rest assured, everybody, that all the wonderful comments that you have put in the chat box that we've been feverishly following, all of us as well, will all be taken into consideration, as well as the points that have been made in conversation. So I think that brings this panel meeting to an end. The next meeting we have as a panel will be on the 1st of February, I'm told, in 2021. I'm just reading that. So if any of you have thoughts on a topic for the next meeting, you're asked to let us know. We have a dedicated email address for this panel, which is enterprisepanel@north-hearts.gov.uk, which I think is published in the notes. So if you have any other topics that you feel are pressing, but we will certainly be updating on this and on the cooperative one that we had last time. So it's actually almost perfect timing. I'm impressed with.
Sorry, Keith, can I just confirm? Did you say the 1st or the 3rd of Feb?
I've got the 1st of Feb listed here, Simon. If that's.
I've got it in my diary for the 3rd. So can we just confirm that sometime? That'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll ask one of the officers to double check that.
Thanks,
I don't know what day of the week the 1st is, but
1st of Monday, 3rd of Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll check that for you and make sure it's published.
All right, thank you very much indeed. So my thanks to the officers who facilitated this, and thanks to all of you for your contributions, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Keith. And it is the 1st of Feb.
It is the 1st of Feb. Okay,
yeah.
We've confirmed at the 1st of Feb. So
thank you.